Southwest Mississippi. It's Thursday morning and time for Thursday Open Lines, your weekly look at what's happening in and around our area. If it's happening in Southwest Mississippi, you'll hear it right here on TOL. Now, from our studios in downtown Brookhaven, it's Thursday Open Lines with your host, Kenny Goza.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a very special Thursday Open Line. Randy, I would say that you and I do not need to do anything to break the law this morning because we have a studio full of law enforcement people here, so we got to be on our best behavior, I guess, today.
Got to go. Not related.
Yeah, not related. Okay. Yeah, tonight at Southway Baptist Church, there is a community event. It has to do with safety. I don't really know the whole title of it. And when I heard about it, it starts at 6 o'clock tonight. We want to give a preview of that because it deals with community safety.
Yes, sir. So it's part of our what we call our Targeted Violence Threat Prevention Program out of the Mississippi Office of Homeland Security. So what we do is we come in, partner with the city of Brookhaven, and do some different classes and things like that with businesses, churches, first responders, hospitals. So tonight we'll be doing churches. We'll be talking about our places of worship, and we'll be presenting our places of worship. Security class talks about all the things for setting up and having good security in your place of worship. Talks about our nonprofit grant program that we have that nonprofits can put in for, which is churches, on how they can increase security of their church. And we talk about the places of worship and their kind of the role they play in community resilience. Okay,
as we get more into that, I want to Chief of Police Dustin Bearfield is with us and help me set all this up. So, Dustin, I'm gonna go to you and let you kind of introduce who's in the studio, and we're going to take the whole hour. This is going to be the whole show today of these gentlemen talking about what's going on and what they're going to help us with as far as security is concerned. Okay?
Yes, good morning, and thank you for having us this morning. I think it's very important that we just go around the room for just a second and let everybody kind of introduce themselves so the audience can see who's actually here in the room, just to know what kind of programs that we have coming up in the future. Like Kenny said, I'm Dustin Bearfield, the Chief of Police here. Also over here on my left,
I'm Jim Brinson, Acting Director for the Mississippi Office of Homeland Security, Department of Public Safety.
And we got our Sheriff.
Sheriff Steve Rush.
And we've got
Mark Chambers, also with BPD.
Yeah. So these guys have all helped put this together. I do want to give a shout out to Jennifer Howard Tate. She's the ones in the beginning when the newly elected alderman had the opportunity to go to some classes and training. She made the initial contact with Homeland Security about some of the opportunities they had for training and different events. And at our first board meeting back in July, she connected me with Homeland, and it was a great idea. It was something that we at the police department was already trying to consider, and then, why redevelop the wheel? And so Homeland Security had a program in place. We were so thankful to be the pilot program here at Brookhaven, and during that time, we started last year planning for this. And now we're here today to talk about the events that actually officially start tonight with those events. Mark Chambers, one of the detectives at the police department, has been hands-on with Rebecca and Jennifer during this whole process of putting the plan together that's going to cover several months here in the city of Brookhaven, allowing some free training, education, and that I believe that's the key to help reduce crime, is to get all stakeholders involved. So if we can get all parties, all citizens at some level, churches, businesses involved in law enforcement, just like the Sheriff's Office has been hands-on with us since day one back in July when I was appointed. And as you see, we've made a big difference already here in Brookhaven. So we'll go back to Jim for just a second about the Homeland Security and the MOU as far as the pilot program, and kind of get an overview of what tonight's supposed to be back. So we'll kind of start with tonight. Tonight is the first time that we're offering this training here in Brookhaven, and it starts at 6 p.m. We encourage all of the community to come out. This is a great opportunity about church security, and it's actually open and free to the public. The great thing about that is because in the past, I have went to churches and spoke about church security. And that's one of the places that we want people to feel safe. We want people to go there and be able to worship, not be concerned about what's in the world. That's a time and place that we take sacred. So, Jim, what's your thoughts about tonight? And how,
Well, Mr. Princeton, let me ask one question,
Yeah.
because this morning we had a group of men that met, and from what I understand, this is not church security training. You're just going over future plans for
Yes, sir. So this isn't training on how to utilize firearms, and that it's basically how to look at your church, evaluate and assess the security that you already have, pre-existing security, look at ways that you can make your church safer, prior to introducing the gun. A gun is merely a tool that we use in protection and law enforcement. We actually discuss all the other aspects that make a full security program for the church. We look at, evaluating the physical security of the church, how the church communicates. Actually, do the churches in the city of Brookhaven and Lincoln County, do they communicate with each other, basically sharing their own information on things that have happened in the church and working together? So we kind of go through all the different aspects of what actually makes a good security program for a church. We talk about all the different laws that are on the books, not just the church protection law that allows someone to carry a firearm in the protection of the church, but other laws that you can utilize to protect the church. We look at all those different aspects that go into a full security concept, how to conduct that assessment of your church, and then how to determine where your weaknesses are, your gaps, whether that's in physical security, could be policies and procedures. What do we do not just for an armed gunman coming to the church? What do we do if we have a bomb threat? What do we do if we have natural disasters? All these things that could happen while you have folks there during worship.
Because a lot could happen.
Yes,
always,
sir.
isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So, Mark, if you don't mind, kind of tell us some of the things that went into preparing for this for tonight.
So we've had a few meetings and a lot of planning, and the program at the state level is established. It's successful. In what it means when we use these strategies is we wanted to pick things that we fairly confident that they're going to work. This is not something we want to guess about. We have experts in the state in these areas. And that's one of the great things, and Jim will talk more about the MOU, but the partnership with Homeland Security essentially is a force multiplier in the experience, the tools, the assets in these areas that an individual police department may not have. And so those gaps are filled with partnerships like Homeland Security and tactics like these community-based resilience trainings and end up lowering the threats, lowering the violence, which again lowers crime rates, which makes for a happier, healthy community, which is our ultimate goal. So in many cases, some of the things that we do have broader effects. The see something, say something is a federal program that goes from the top all the way to the bottom, and it's built into all of the Homeland Security efforts where, we're basically telling the community, you know what's normal and what's not normal. Let us know about that. And then our job is to process that information, share it with who needs to be shared with. In many cases, it's right back to Homeland Security, to their fusion center, so they can process the information and look at a bigger picture. So we get that information flowing, and we use our local common sense and experience filters as well as our law enforcement filters, and we can pick out things that ultimately can prevent future crimes. And so our goal is to manage from our toes, to speak, instead of from our heels. We'll always have to be reactive to things that happen in the community, but if we can be proactive and prevent those things from happening in the first place, these are the type of steps that we use to make that happen.
So based on that, what was your thoughts about the people listening at home? What would you tell them is probably the most important thing they could do And one of them is probably be there tonight. But the other thing, what would you suggest to them?
Well, it's be involved. Don't sit on the sidelines in your community. Be involved. We're going to be offering plenty of opportunities for people to be involved. It's free. All it costs you is your time. And we'll have experts there from Homeland Security. We'll have our own local law enforcement officials there. What it really means is to be able to touch your local law enforcement directly in a 911 type environment, ask those questions, build those relationships. And one of those relationships is with the sheriff's department, where we have multiple law enforcement agencies, including all the state agencies working in and around Brookhaven. But one of the biggest ones is the sheriff's office, and our commitment to work with them is tantamount to making this work as well, because it's a community, and Brookhaven's a city, but the community is certainly larger than the city, and we recognize that. And Sheriff Rushton's been great to work with as well.
Well, Chief, we're going to take a break. We're going to take one of our breaks right here. We're going to come back. Again, this is going to happen tonight at Southway Baptist Church at 6 o'clock. That's on South Jackson Street. It's open to the public. And it sounds like to me, guys, that what we're talking about is just bringing the community and building a bigger partnership in all the different, from public to Homeland Security to Sheriff, Police Department. So we're going to take a break. We'll be back. Back with our second segment of Thursday Open Line, and I want to recognize our sponsors before we go back to Chief Bearfield. Bank of Brookhaven, KDMC, King's Daughters Medical Center, Brookhaven Recreation Department, Lincoln County Civic Center, Toyota of Brookhaven, you just heard Prentice on the radio, Copiah Lincoln Community College, and Rapid Oil Change. As I mentioned earlier, the whole show today is about a program that will be tonight at Southway Baptist Church at 6 o'clock, having to do with not just church security, but public security and safety. So we're glad to have just a studio full of guys here that are going to be involved in that tonight. So, Chief, I'll turn it back over to you because I know you're kind of helping me direct this morning.
Yes, sir. Thank you again. And if you're just joining us live, just wanted to kind of bring you up to speed. We are here with Homeland Security Acting Director Jim Brinson, who's kind of heading this up on the Homeland Security end. And so this free training that we're offering here in Brookhaven to bring the police department, the sheriff's office, the state agencies all together to make Brookhaven a better place, Lincoln County. And so at this time, we're going to go back to Jim to talk about some of the training that's being offered, just not tonight, but what's coming up in the future. What are we looking at here? What's some of the different programs that are going to be offered?
Yeah, so we'll do the church training tonight, and then we'll do training next month on human trafficking. So we'll actually bring in folks from Department of Public Safety, the AG's office, and our other partners, and actually discuss human trafficking, primarily businesses' roles in human trafficking. People go in and shop, and businesses see things that other people don't see. So we'll work with them so they kind of understand how that works. And that'll be another thing that's also we can invite the public so they kind of understand that the issues behind human trafficking. And then we're going to do some training with some of your high school seniors on surviving active shooter events, different things like that. We'll also bring in...
Will that be held at like a school?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It'll be held at school. I think we're doing that one in May. Yeah, we'll do that one in May. And then we're also going to bring in training for local businesses and local government on cybersecurity, how to protect your cyber assets, the cyber world that you work in. And then we'll eventually bring in, other training. And then we also bring in training that will also be specific to certain disciplines. We'll bring in training that Chief and his folks think they need for law enforcement. The same with the sheriff, but we'll bring in specific training for your school districts, the churches, people that counsel young people that may have a propensity to violence, and how to deal with them, and how to, basically... So the way this program works, it's the Targeted Violence Threat Prevention Program. Rebecca Cheney out of my office is the coordinator for that program. And so what we look at is, like you said earlier, it's a total community concept. So we bring in everyone in the community because everyone has a vested interest. we look at the 4 foundational blocks that we work off in Homeland Security. First one's prevention, second one's protection, third's response, and then recovery. So we base all the stuff, the training and everything we do, whether it's how we hand out grant funding, is the first thing I want to do is how do I prevent bad things from happening? How do I prevent it from happening at a church? How do I prevent it from happening at a school, a business? How do I prevent it from happening in Brookhaven? How do I prevent it from happening in Lincoln County? And then we look at the response. Well, what does that response look like if those 2 fail and we have to respond to an incident? Does the police department, sheriff's department, state assets that are in this area have what they need, the training that they need to be able to accomplish that, whether it's responding to an active shooter, a bomb threat, a cyber attack, whatever that may be. And then the 4th piece of that we look at is the recovery. How, after there's an event, how do we get Brookhaven back to what would be considered as close to normal as possible? So all of our training is geared towards that. As Mark had stated, our concept here is, healthy communities make for a healthy county. Healthy counties make for a healthy state. And it's basically a way that we look at, other than just putting handcuffs on people and putting them in jail, how do we address the violence that we're seeing at the root level? How do we find, well, where's this coming from? And what a lot of people don't, violence is a form of communication. And unfortunately, a lot of our young people now, that's how they communicate. They have a beef with somebody because they came across the wrong street or have an argument. So now that form of communication is, well, I'm just going to, go shoot somebody. So we work a lot, and we're doing a lot on the mental health side and with counselors on understanding how that works with dealing with somebody and try to change that pathway to violence.
Yeah, I feel that is awesome opportunities for the public, because when I just take the everyday calls, for example, and I'm just going to touch on a couple of these you just mentioned, but the everyday calls we get at police departments a lot of times is ongoing scams, and people receive an email or receive some type of text saying they have a warrant, they owe money, a jury duty, they didn't serve. All this stuff is scams that we see, and educating the public on how to recognize those are so important because of the amount of time or money that some people pay for these demands is unreal. I mean, it even blows my mind. I deal with it daily, and sometimes I hear some of the sad stories that the public tells me that they fell for, and these people that are doing this do this daily, and so what we need everybody to understand is a lot of times they're very convincing. I mean, they're able to make a website look like original website, so to speak, and we need to educate the public on how to determine is that a legit or website or a valid email. And so, most of the people that call me, I tell them right off the bat, if that's not a number you recognize, if that's not email address that you looked at the whole email address to verify, not just the name, but the whole email address, then they need to avoid that. And I'm sure at the state level, y'all see a lot of that also. The human trafficking, that's something that's unfortunately is on the rise. We would love to say we don't have anything like that here, but most of the time, crime is around us. And as people looking for opportunities. So we need to educate the people on how to be vigilant and recognize those vulnerabilities and not be a victim of a crime. And then we got the schools you mentioned. Back in 96, 97 there, I was at that Pearl High School shooting. And so I was one of the first 2 officers that arrived there. And I can tell you right now, when you have something like that happen, whatever city, county it's in, they're going to rely on every agency around to help them, because that's a time of total, I'll say, chaos or whatever. But people are unorganized, not knowing. So the point of planning, educating the people by far probably would deter a lot of it. And at the same time, it will make us better on responding to it. And so is there any thoughts about, I don't want to put you on the spot, but is human trafficking across our state? I know it's a big concern. I see the AG's office constantly sending me emails about free education for officers, but is there any trends or anything that we could share with the public?
So Yeah. So human trafficking is obviously it's something we deal with everywhere. We do deal with human trafficking in the state of Mississippi. So we have the Human Trafficking Division under the Mississippi Bureau of Investigations. We have Human Trafficking Division under the AG's office. They work very closely together. Matter of fact, they just had a very large event over in at Pine Lake in Flowood where they invited businesses and churches and everyone in. And we'll do basically a similar thing here in Brookhaven. Some of the trends that we see a lot of times, someone's labeled as a runaway. They may not necessarily be a runaway. They may have actually been coaxed away by somebody that they met online. So we look at that. Obviously, we look at these young people that are being pushed into prostitution, sex trafficking, which is a big issue. But we also look at the labor trafficking and all of those. As far as trends go, majority of kind of what we're seeing right now in the state of Mississippi, what they've dealt with. I don't have the statistics off the top of my head, but is sex trafficking, basically girls that are put into the prostitution. I know the AG's office and the Human Trafficking Division of the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation stay very busy all over the state. They cover the whole state. So a lot of the training that we'll be doing will help businesses and locals be able to understand what they're looking for, to be able to share that information with local law enforcement and can share that with us, and we can try to stop that as soon as possible.
I think I heard A.G. Fitch say that I-10, that 60 miles south of us, is a big corridor for trafficking, correct?
Yeah, so Mississippi's, it's obviously geographically important because of where it sits. You have I-20, you've got, 59, you've got I-10. So you have major corridors coming through. You've got stop-off places. And a lot of these traffickers, they'll travel a circuit. They may be in Texas, and then they may come to Louisiana, and then Mississippi, and then over to Alabama, then to Florida. And these major, interstates it's just a pipeline for them to be able to move things, just like narcotics. We do a lot of interdiction on the highways, and people think we do interdiction just for narcotics, but that interdiction is also for human trafficking. Commissioner Tyndall has been, very forthcoming and very vigilant on trying to, making sure that we're looking at all these different threat streams that we deal with. Narcotics that's coming across the border, human trafficking, all these different threat streams that we deal with within, the public safety realm.
Thank you, Jim. So, the cyber crimes that we see affects us all, and we deal with it county and city. And so I was going to get the sheriff to give us his thoughts on that, because I know they deal with it daily too. And a lot of times these cases are bigger that require state help when we deal with some of this scams. But Sheriff, what's your thoughts on the cyber attacks and crimes with the county? How often do y'all deal with it?
Chief, we get them constantly, especially the elderly. That's who's the biggest victim of these that we see. Is they'll call them up and they even act like they're a family member and send money, thousands of dollars. I could name you several that I've dealt with that sent tens of thousands of dollars to these folks. They stay with it. We'll get a call from one that's saying, hey, we got a warrant for such and such in our family, and we got to go to Walmart and get a green dot. Well, don't do any of that. If you got to go get money and send somebody, don't do it. So we've offered different training things before. Jim's been walked through some of our schools with us before. So a lot of these programs that are available may not fall under the total MOU of what Brookhaven is starting now, but we've done a few of them in the past, and I look forward to doing more with y'all and working together as we build up some of these programs again.
Sheriff, let me ask, are you getting any AI cases where there's a mimicking of somebody's voice and someone's getting a call? And
you're starting to see a little bit more of those. The funny ones we get is ones that call and says, hey, I got a warrant now. Lieutenant Rushing called me, or Sheriff Rushing called me and said, come turn myself in, and they're on the phone with them. I've had them walk in my office on the phone with them. And basically what I've gotten to tell a lot of them is like, hey, tell them to turn around and call me. Give them my number, we'll answer them, and they won't call back. Yeah. But it's sad the amount they prey on our elderly folks that give up their life savings, that I can name you one or two in particular right now. And they're hard to track. They're overseas. They're
yeah, I hear they hit like 4 or 5 spots in across the world, and you can't track them.
Yeah, so we track basically try to find country of origin, and then we work with Interpol. to see if we can actually get that person arrested in their country. It's very difficult in most of these countries they come from to get them extradited.
Well, we're going to take another break. Time goes by really fast when we're talking on such interesting subjects. We'll be back in just a minute. We are back with our show, dealing with a program tonight at Southway Baptist Church on South Jackson Street. It is a community program talking about security and safety, not just for churches, but for our whole community. Just glad to have a studio full of guys here that are going to be involved in that. So, Chief, I'm going to turn it back over to you because I know you have some more information you want to share.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having us on the show. And if you just missed that last segment, we were talking about human trafficking and cyber threats, and we're not going to put Homeland Security on. We're not going to give them a surprise question about what's going on today, but if anybody's watching the news, you can see today there's a lot going on, the states involved, and so that cyber protection is definitely, I know we use them from time to time, and so we're going to go to Mark here about some prevention and awareness, some thoughts on that.
When you talk about prevention and awareness, specifically in this program, one of the things we're going to be looking at is violence itself. And obviously that occurs in many forms. You've got the traditional forms you think of when you think of violence. You think of, shootings or stabbings or things like that. But also there's violence in the home that ends up growing into violence in the streets. And we want to train the community to look for the signs that lead to these things. So that prevention looks like training in the beginning, and training to recognize behaviors that can be known as warning signs. Things like an increase in threats. It could be local household threats. It could be threats at school. Bullying. All these type of things. The small things add up, and so if we have some intelligence on the small things, we can project that and intervene in a lot of places. School attacks, I can't tell you how many school attacks have been thwarted just by people recognizing a behavior change and recognizing the signs and things. And so the type of education we're doing really helps the public, the teachers, the business owners, the parents, the pastors, people who have an intimate personal knowledge of what's normal for the people around them. Then, with this type of training, they can recognize those things when they change and report them or intervene themselves in some ways. And it also within the police department, it's a catchphrase, but it's a real thing that we work on a daily basis is de-escalation. A lot of times when we're called to a scene, if we have a certain skill set, we can actually de-escalate that scene and prevent a violent act, just by our presence and some tools that we have in the toolbox to do that before it, gets out of hand and becomes some type of criminal action that we have to, treat a little differently. So there's things literally every citizen can do, whatever their role is in the community, to both look for violence and report possible situations that could lead to violence, but also prevent it in the first place. And so we want to take advantage of all those opportunities and basically build our team to include every member of the community.
Yeah, which is awesome. I know the sheriff and I both give out our cell phone numbers to people. We have Crime Stopper Line. We have our Central Dispatch, which is city and county ran together. We have numerous opportunities for people to report suspicious activity, and the reason that's so important is a lot of times that will prevent it. A lot of times we're able to get ahead of it. I can't brag enough about the working relationship with the sheriff's office and Homeland Security, because there's been several things that probably never made the paper that we were able to take that was intercepted through internet and different things of platforms of social media that brought our awareness to something. And it might have came from the state, it might have came from the county, it might have came from the city, and we shared that information. We was able to react on that information ahead of time. I know I have a couple of cases now where we work together, all of us in this room, and have prevented what could have been some bad outcomes, and wind up those cases are. I know one of them set for this next grand jury, and it's set there, and it was dealing with the school stuff. So it's very important, and I'm so excited for the guys sitting in this room and the listeners to know that we are trying very hard to stay ahead of the game, work together, and this is the second part of this puzzle, is having the community more involved. And so the Sheriff, I was going to ask you kind of your thoughts of how things are going. I know that we stay tons of calls every day here in the city, and sometimes we rely on you to help you, and very few times, but we help you when you need us. And so some of the thoughts about the how the joint community working together, what was your thoughts on that?
Oh, well, it's been great, Chief, especially here as we grow further along in y'all's new administration and ours. We've been able to work on several things together out in the county, in the city, answering calls, helping with calls, and sharing equipment. There's one thing going back to what you just mentioned about Crime Stoppers. They're getting ready to upgrade some of that stuff, but we also offer the app now. So I have a tip section on our app to where I can share it with you or whoever. I send all the Brookhaven stuff over to you, and county stuff goes to us, but it's completely anonymous on that tip line also. So,
Sheriff, what is the app? How do you find it on?
It's Lincoln County Sheriff's Office.
Okay.
It's the Google and Apple have it. You just look for Lincoln County
Sheriff's Office,
Mississippi. So there's 19
Lincoln County,
the state, of the country.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
But getting back to Chief, it's been a totally different thing trying to get out, and we've been in the car several times together on stuff, going on calls and trying to work and foster a great working relationship between city and county.
You see more presence, I will say that. And Chief, I actually saw some motorcycles the other day, and you had mentioned that last time you was on the show, so I saw that happening in Brookhaven. Yes,
sir. That's kind of it was an opportunity to help us grow, help us gather some new employees. We have a motorcycle division right now. We're just using it kind of as a part-time thing, letting them come out to work traffic. But so unfortunately, we have a lot of traffic accidents here in the city, and most of the time it's somebody's on cell phone texting or not paying attention. And so we're, to effectively try to reduce crime, we have to do all areas, and that includes our traffic division. That includes, we're starting back up our drug awareness program in the schools in the fall. And so we're trying to do the complete package of not only educating the people through these type of programs, also prevention. We're staffed with detectives, sheriff's office also, who goes out and investigates the cases once the complaint is made. But at the same time, we're also putting prevention programs into place. We started up all the programs in our city court for Region 8, for mental and drug, GPS monitoring for offenders, so we didn't have to keep everybody in jail. That's not the place. I'm sure the sheriff would agree with me that we don't want to just put everybody in jail. I don't think you could hold everybody. So at the same time, we're looking at ways to try to rehabilitate the person so they're not a repeat offender, and at the same time make them a productive person. So that's one of our goals that we've tied to this the whole time that we have worked on. So coming back to you, Jim, and so we're looking at several programs that we're going to be doing over the next 6 months here in Brookhaven. Mm-hmm. The community, we're trying to make sure they're aware of them. They might not be able to come to every one, but if I'm understanding right, it's a third Thursday of each month, right, at
Correct.
6 p.m.
Yep.
And kind of what's your thoughts of the outlay? Like, is this a 2 hour, 2.5 hour, 3 hour? What's
so
your
most
thoughts?
of the time we try to keep the training around 2.5 hours, about as long as you can keep folks' attention sometimes, especially after work. So we basically just hit the high points on what you need to know, and then we can also come in and do individual training at different places. We do a lot of training. So the program that we deal with here, the TVTP program, it's a national program. So Mississippi was selected for this program. We put in for it. We were selected for it. We've used aspects of this in other places and saw drastic decline in violence. So we decided to basically use the city of Brookhaven to implement the entire program into one place. So far, it's even at the federal level, they're looking at what we're doing in Mississippi with our program and changing some of the things at the federal level with how they do their program. We've had great success with working with churches to develop programs for youth on helping them start their own business on things that they're interested in. We've done some work with a pastor up in Panola County. We've done work in Wayne County using certain aspects of what we're doing here, but this is where we're actually going to bring everything into one community and push it all together. And when we're done here in Brookhaven, we'll move to another jurisdiction and another jurisdiction, and we're working on doing this around the entire state.
Do you see these programs like you're doing tonight, and then you're talking about the sex trafficking? Once you go through that, are they repetitive that you cycle through, and then maybe a year from now you come back and do the same programs again?
So folks will ask us. So it's kind of interesting. We come in and do a training. Folks always come back. Hey, can you guys come back next year? Or hey, we're having an event. We're having a conference. We're doing different things. We have churches that will host like a church security, and they'll invite all the other churches in their jurisdiction. We just did that in Flora. I've got one coming up Saturday. Church is hosting that training, but we also go in and do schools. So Mississippi Office of Homeland Security, I have 3 people, law enforcement folks on my staff, that's all they do across the whole state is school security. We do school security assessments, which is roughly about 1,041 schools in the state. We come in and help them with their plans on dealing with threats, whether that's a shooting threat, bomb threat. We train their staff. We'll even talk to students at a certain age level on things that they can do for their own survival. We talk to counselors on counseling people that they may not be familiar with that type of person that deals with violence. We work very closely with what we call the BTAM program, Behavioral Threat Assessment Management. But we also work with the FBI on some of their threat management on folks that cause threats. So it's a whole concept of things that we work on, from basically why did this person think that this was a good idea and how did I stop that, all the way up to person made the threat, and we evaluate them and see how dangerous we think they are and what actions we need to take from there and how to get them back to normal.
Okay, well, we're going to take our last break before we get to our last segment. So, Chief, we're going to come back to you in just a minute. Okay, we are back for our last segment. I hope you all have been listening because it's been a great program. The whole show has been about safety and for our community, for our churches, for our schools, all of the above. I want to thank our sponsors again for making the show possible: Bank of Brookhaven, King's Daughters Medical Center, Brookhaven Recreation Department, Lincoln County Civic Center, Toyota Brookhaven, Copiah Lincoln Community College, and Rapid Oil Change. Chief Bearfield, I appreciate you putting all this together because I think it's very good information. And I know tonight at Southway Baptist Church, we've said it over and over again, at 6 o'clock, there's a community program there that are going to include everybody that's here in the room along with others. So, again, thank you for helping me get this information out.
Yes, sir. Glad to be here. So if you're just joining us live, we want to make sure that you're aware of the training coming up. It's going to be on those Thursdays, the third Thursday of each month. There's going to be some free training at 6 p.m. Locations might be different, but tonight is at Southway Baptist Church. And we got Homeland Security Acting Director Jim Brinson with us, who's a valuable asset to both the Sheriff of Lincoln County and the city. And so, Jim, just if you don't mind, kind of tell us, how is training different today than it was? Because everybody in this room that's sitting here has been in law enforcement over 25 years. Mm-hmm. And so what is different today? How do we do that training compared to, we probably didn't even offer this training 25 years ago.
Yeah, so, our training's basically based on what we get as far as, threat streams, what we're seeing in the community, what civilian population is reporting, things we see like in the cyber world, years ago, you didn't have to worry about somebody calling and telling you had a warrant or a warrant for your arrest because you didn't show up for a federal grand jury. And with the internet, and we'll do training with this also with some of the students when we do the training with them at the school is understanding these different threat streams. The internet now is huge in everybody's life. Every single person is now connected to a digital world all day. That's a new threat stream we have to deal with. Bad people find ways. Once we figure out how they do something, they change those, their methods, their techniques, their procedures on how they do things. So we update that training constantly on the latest and greatest thing that we're seeing. That the bad people are doing. Laws change on what you can and can't do. We now have a law in the state of Mississippi that says that you can carry a gun and protect your congregation, but there's things you have to do to be able to do that. Some people get confused on that, so we try to help with some of that confusion on, what you can and cannot do, how you're covered by the liabilities. There's just so many different things. The world changes so rapidly now with how bad guys and bad girls actually do things that we have to constantly change that training to keep up. There's just tons of different changes, even in human trafficking. People now can hack into your system and get access to your computer, sometimes just because somebody opened up the wrong email. So a lot of training on that's something that, a few years ago no one would have even thought about. We just open emails and we look at them. And so now we have to, train up the elderly folks because they're not computer savvy, but then the young kids are so computer savvy that, they basically are giving everybody their access to everything every time they go download an app. They don't even read what they're actually agreeing to, so making sure they understand that.
If I could just say something, because that's so important, I just want to make sure the listeners are hearing you, because please do not download stuff. Do not take that call and ask you to download or buy Bitcoins. Do not do that. Just like the sheriff said, do not go withdraw money. Emails is so important, what Jim Brinson just said. Please look at the email complete address. Make sure it's not from somewhere else. Make sure it's actually an email address you recognize, not just the first part. And then if you did open it, please do not click on something and download. And you're so right. People need to be aware that when they download these apps and they open these things, that, yes, they're probably opening up whatever they had on their phone, that people are getting that information. So I just wanted to touch on that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And so what we bring to the table is, so we travel all over the state. We work all over the country. We work with our state and federal partners. So we see a lot of things that a lot of times the locals don't see because we deal with it every day. Prime example, my agents deal with well over 100 threats a year just in the state of Mississippi, where some of your locals, they may get one bomb threat once a year or one shooting threat. We deal with literally over 100 of those every year. So we have a very good techniques on how we investigate that, things we can do. We've made connections with the different groups that are out there. So we're really good at being able to investigate threats, which is primarily a Homeland Security objective. We really are able to sit there and work with all the other fusion centers. So our fusion centers, our state intel center, they're connected to all other states. So they all communicate, and we see, hey, what's going on in Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana around us. So a lot of times we may see things that are coming that haven't happened in Mississippi yet, so we can get ahead of those and say, hey, this is something we need to be aware of and looking for. Commissioner Tyndall's been very big on, making sure that we become more efficient, quicker, and being able to obtain the tools and training we need to be able to do our job. And along with working with our federal counterparts with the Department of Homeland Security and FBI, all of my guys go to training through them to maintain their expertise level, and we try to share that with local law enforcement, fire departments, whether that's through search and rescue, now through the TVTP programs where we really focus on the civilian, the community, the people that actually make up the community, so that everybody's got a part to play in the safety and the health of their community so it can prosper.
It's such a great, when we look at this whole program that we're putting in place, it's such a great opportunity for Brookhaven. And having every stakeholder on the law enforcement side working together just makes us so much stronger. And that's one of the reasons why we work hand in hand with the sheriff's office. And Steve Rushing is here, our sheriff, and that's one of the things we talk about is crime. Crime doesn't stay just here. It goes out in the county. County comes in the city, goes in the state, if it goes in other areas. And so it's so important. I feel so good about our working relationship. And Sheriff, what's your thoughts on how crime seems to trend? I mean, we see the same. When I look at your jail docket, I see some of the same people you arrested, I've arrested. Your thoughts?
Yeah, we deal with the same element and same people a lot of times, the same crime. So we try to share information on what we have going together. We all have a group message system between us. If we see a certain crime going on out in the county, we share it with the city in the same way. So we're seeing the same people, and of course they don't know where the city limits is. They don't know where the county lines are. And we work with y'all, we work with other counties, so we all kind of share information among ourselves. You may not see that on the backside from the public's aspect, but we're sharing constantly. You know, I talk to Jim constantly. You know, if something comes up, they are calling us. I talk to you about daily, I think, Dustin. So this training is great because, especially with our church situation, we have a ton of churches out in the county. This could be updated training. We have a lot of our churches already have security teams in place that we've done over the years, but never hurts to see what's new out there. Never hurts to see what the new trends are.
Well, we get slack too, you know,
Oh, yeah.
because nothing happens, and so
Yeah.
you just kind of ease off,
Yeah.
and you have to constantly be reminded.
So it's just a great working relationship and great training that everybody can benefit. You don't have to live in just the city to get the training. So,
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And one thing I wanted to mention, as we're expanding, we are also including the fire department. We're looking at pre-plans, stuff like that, and that's so important for law enforcement because when we go to a apartment complex or something like that, a lot of times the number's not on the door.
We'd like to get Jeff in to talk about that.
Yeah, and so we do include the fire departments. Volunteer fire departments play a vital role. They're out there; they see things daily, and the city fire department. So, and I think the listeners need to also know that our new mayor, our new board, the county, they're all committed to working together, and that's what's making this possible is by all the stakeholders being invested and their commitment to public safety. So I think we're about to run out of time, but before we run out of time, let's see if we got any final thoughts. Mark, is there anything you want to?
Just real quick, just to piggyback on what you were talking about, without getting too deep into it, I've had a pretty long career that includes a lot of consulting with law enforcement all over the United States and all over the world. And I can tell you the level of cooperation that's happening right now, not just with the sheriff's office in the city, which is pretty special, but with the state agencies and the federal agencies. Chief has signed MOUs with going on probably a dozen agencies now, just with committing full cooperation, and we're getting it back. NBI, NBN, almost on a daily basis. We're working cases with those guys. Director Brinson will tell you we call him a lot, and he always answers everything we've asked of them. We've gotten. We work with the Fusion Center often. So I just want the listeners to know that what we're doing here is special, and that's why we're continuing to see results. And now with the community's involvement, it's going to be even better.
Yes. All right, Jim, any last words?
So, yeah, this is definitely an effort that is customizable, basically, for Brookhaven. So anywhere we go, any training we do, we can customize it based on the needs of that community. Rebecca Cheney, who works for me, she wasn't Rebecca Yarborough. She's actually from this area. She's not a cop. She doesn't have a badge. I hired her because she's not a cop. So she actually is able to speak civilian and help me interpret civilian so we know how to meet those needs. Alderwoman Tate is one that we've partnered with. She found out and brought this to the city council. City council voted on working with us, and we're dedicated to helping the city of Brookhaven. You know, it's not just the training that we're going to be doing out for the public. There's also things that we do behind the scenes with police department, fire department, sheriff's department, as far as their needs, hospitals, schools. It's a total community concept to try to make Brookhaven better. healthy families make healthy communities. Healthy communities make a healthy state. My job is to protect the state of Mississippi. Commissioner Tyndall has entrusted me with that as far as in the Homeland Security arena. I'm going to do my best to try to make that happen. Been with Homeland for about 22 years. So
okay, it kicks off tonight. You hear this is a hard close here. It kicks off tonight, 6 o'clock,
Yes,
Southway Baptist Church.
Yes,
Public is invited. All right, so thank you guys so much for being in here. What a great show. A lot of information.